I'm Kristal Hart, and in lieu of Black History Month, the U.S. Postal Service unveils the 47th stamp in its Black Heritage Series, which honors civil rights trailblazer Constance Baker Motley. Motley was the first African-American woman to argue a case before the United States Supreme Court and the first to serve as a federal judge. The first day of issue ceremony takes place at the Constance Baker Motley Recreation Center, which is located in Manhattan at 348 East 54th Street. In your view, how is she so successful in arguing cases?
I think she was successful because she was logical, pragmatic, well prepared, and she also didn't speak down to people. She told the truth and she made sure that the legal precedent was there. Her argument was not just to follow the arguments that were already in place, but be creative with the arguments that were needed to make this world a better place. She was also the kind of person who could make an argument without insulting the other side, even if she had been insulted. All of these things made her a wonderful advocate on behalf of civil rights, as well as an exemplar when it comes to women in professions.
And how did she change the world?
She changed the world not only by crafting the complaint, the original complaint for the Brown v. Board of Education case that desegregated public schools in this country, but she argued 10 cases before the United States Supreme Court, the first black woman to do so. She won 9 of those cases, and the last one she didn't actually lose because it was found later that she was correct in her argument. She is somebody we can choose to follow. So many people say, I've never seen or heard of a particular person. Well, in this case, this stamp is going to allow people to hear of a black female attorney, a judge, a politician, a mother, and a wife. And as they say, you may not be able to have it all at the same time, but she's someone who shows you can have it all.
And lastly, it was during a very difficult time, a very dangerous time for her.
Yes, it was during the time in which they didn't care whether or not a person was a woman or a male. They just knew a person of color was going to be harmed, was going to be put in a place of difficulty, nowhere to stay in hotels, no restaurants, no place to go to the restroom. This was during cold-hearted segregation in this country. And here she is as a woman traveling alone, navigating the highways of the Deep South, and they knew that she was a civil rights attorney, and then here she is a woman in the Deep South, where in Alabama, up until about 40 years ago, there were many women who could not serve in particular positions of power, could not be jurors in a jury box. So there's been a lot that was happening during her time of life that we never think about today. But we have to realize whatever struggles we have today, she had them tenfold. And if she held her head high, this is an inspiration for us to continue to hold our heads high, to look forward to a world and a law that we want to create, not just handle what's there and given to us, but think creatively. How can we do more than generations past, not just live off of what they've accomplished? Each and every attorney, law student, all people who think about social justice, who think about equality, need to also think creatively. What can we do in the future for generations unborn as she did? She didn't know your name, she didn't know our names, and she fought for us anyway. And because of that, we have a better world. That's Constance Baker Motley.
With us is Charlie Palmer, and he is the artist of this stamp. Tell me your thoughts on it, and how did you create it?
Okay, well, through research and a great reference photography, I was able to create it, but I knew a lot about Judge Baker Motley, and so it was an absolute just kind of inspiration trying to pull some of her spirit out in the actual portrait.
Now the flowers, beautiful. How did you come up with that?
So in the actual photograph, she had a corsage, but I enlarged it a little bit, and I wanted to pay homage to her today by having my tux converted to flowers that she loved.
And just tell me how it all did come about.
Okay, it was somebody contacted me on an email. It was the U.S. Postal Service and asked me if I would be willing to do the portrait of Judge Baker Motley. And so it's early studies, a lot of sketches first, then approval of the pencil, and then final painting, and then the approval committee for the final painting.
And are you pleased at how it came out?
I was hoping that the family would be happy, but I was happy. You know, it was always about, I hope they like it. And so they were very pleased with it, so I'm happy.
She knew the law, she knew the facts. She was always someone who, when she spoke to the court knew that they were getting it straight and they were getting it well. She was a model of what a lawyer and a judge should be, and she was for a whole generation of us. And I'm just so honored to have had the privilege of having known her.
And how do you feel she changed the world?
Well, because of her advocacy in bringing the promise of the Constitution and the Declaration to every American citizen. It's really the fulfillment of what the American Revolution started. That's what the Civil Rights Movement was all about. And that's why that stamp says USA Forever. Look what it says, USA Forever. That's what she did. She brought it to all of us. She's a model. God bless her and God thank you.
Thank you.
Judge Motley was an extraordinary woman, which is what we have been talking about. Humble and Also, she stayed with the times. Did you see her about 5 years before she died? Remember that hair was some kind of attractive. Remember it was all white and cut short. Remember? So find some of those pictures. But we loved her. She loved us. And when I became head of the Legal Defense Fund, there was nothing she wouldn't do. I was first woman head. She supported me in every way she could. Every way she could. Fundraisers, dinners, just coming out, just being there, talking to staff, doing whatever she needed to do. But that's who she was, and we love her today.
And what made her so effective in arguing cases?
Because she was prepared, she was intelligent, she was committed, and the issues mattered to her, and she was an extraordinary lawyer. Extraordinary.
Yes, Constance Baker Motley is an icon to all of us. She's on whose shoulders we stand. She was the epitome of grace and brilliance. She was a strategist, and many people don't know the role that she played in evolving so much of the work that the Legal Defense Fund has done. As they said today, she is an unsung hero, and we are here to sing her praises as loudly and robustly as possible and to make sure that everyone knows the name Constance Baker Motley. She is an American icon. She is part of our Black heritage, and we are extraordinarily proud of her.
And it's something to keep in mind. They say that Constance Motley had 10 cases she argued before the Supreme Court, and that she won 9. She really won 10, because the one that she lost, Swain versus Alabama, the court came back years later and changed its mind. It realized it was wrong, and it corrected it. And so she really won 10 out of 10.
That's right. She is a 10 out of 10.
That's right.
Constance Baker Motley was tough in just the right way. She was brilliant. She was on fire for justice. Constance Baker Motley was one of the greatest lawyers in this country's history. And we're only now beginning to give her her due. I can still hear that timbre in her voice. She had such a wonderful voice. She was someone who lifted up younger people, mentored them. She was my shiro and hero. And I'm so glad that we're finally doing what we're doing to give her her due. Actually, we can't even give her her due, not really, but we can make a step in that direction, and that's what we're doing today with this stamp. Let me say one other thing that came to me as I was sitting here. I was thinking about how many African Americans worked in the Postal Service. My father was one of them. And so many of them, that was one of the only jobs that they could get after World War II. This is a proud day for many of them also. So I'm glad the Postal Service is doing this. And God bless Connie Motley.
With us, Alex Gill, who I have seen at many of these first day of issues. We are here at the Constance Baker Motley Recreation Center in Manhattan at 348 East 54th Street. Now tell me your thoughts on this stamp.
Well, I think this is a really, really beautiful stamp, and this is certainly a very, very nice addition to the stamp program for here in the United States. And what's really cool is that this is the 47th stamp in the ongoing Black Heritage series, which has been going on since I want to say the very early 80s. And so this is certainly a very worthy person to have on the series, Constance Baker Motley. She is certainly a very, very important person in U.S. history.
My name is Jane. I'm from Philadelphia.
You came all the way from Philadelphia?
Yes, I did. I came to the ceremony. I belong to Esper Stamp Club, and we try to attend these ceremonies that are near, to where we live. It's an international stamp club, and we really enjoyed this program today. It was wonderful.
And tell me your thoughts on Constance Baker Motley.
I read up about her prior to coming to the ceremony. I was very, very impressed with a lot of the things that she did, and it was an honor to be able to come here today.
Well, welcome, welcome. And what do you think of the stamp? Beautiful colors.
It is so gorgeous. It is so gorgeous. It was very, very, very outstanding. You know, the picture, the portrait, the flowers, and all.
The flowers. Didn't
Yes.
you just love
Yes.
the flowers?
Yeah. I'm a community garden person, so I love the flowers. Like when they were, how they were displayed and how they were portrayed in the stamp. Yes, it was very, very nice, and I hope everyone gets the stamps.
I hope so. So go mail a letter today.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Oh,
right?
yes. Exactly. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I really appreciate the stamp because it definitely pays a lot of contribute to my great aunt, Constance Baker Motley, and I feel like she's made such a difference inside the world, and she hasn't really gotten her fair pay for it. And I feel like this stamp is definitely important for paying her back for just being amazing. And yeah, I really appreciate this. Thank you.
Do you plan on following in her footsteps?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Plan on being a lawyer?
I'm not sure about a lawyer, but definitely something inside the lines of civil rights, definitely.
Hi, I'm Rachel Baker-Blackwell, and my father was Edward Baker, and he is the brother to Constance Baker Motley, her baby brother. And I came here from Florida to participate in this wonderful ceremony. We are so pleased that, our aunt is being remembered in this way. It's very endearing and very special to all of us to know that she spent so much time helping others and really pouring her heart and a lot of energy. Because when you think about it, she was a mother, she was an aunt, she was a friend, she was a sister. And when people talk to us, and I often say, I said, she was my aunt. She would call me Ray Ray, and we would talk, and she would ask me questions. I spent some time with her in Chester, and, and she took me swimming and took me sightseeing, and, and I didn't know her as that civil rights leader because she was just my aunt, and I loved her. So I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about her in this way. Thank you.
And what do you think of the stamp?
I think the stamp is beautiful. I think it's beautiful.
I love the flowers.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Growing up as a Huggins Baker child, and all the family knows what I speak of, Judge Motley was Aunt Concy, or Aunt Connie, or Cousin Connie, and she enjoyed and hardly missed a family celebration, especially when it involved an educational achievement, or an achievement such as this. And I'm sure she's looking down and enjoying this gathering of so many people. At the same time, we all knew she was a giant among giants. As her namesake, I certainly knew it. But somehow, it never felt like hers was a household name among the other giants of the civil rights movement, or easily associated with landmark clients and cases. James Meredith, Charlene Hunter Galt, Judy Heumann, Melissa Ludke, and others. That was odd. In our quite formal and proper West Indian family, it was unheard of not to give credit where credit was due. In a sense, that's what today represents. This extraordinarily beautiful stamp acknowledges the life and work of an unsung trailblazer of American civil rights and jurisprudence. It publicly thanks her for her lifetime of service to this country.
First are trailblazers. And perhaps because of the challenge of the time we're living in, I've been thinking about what we learned from those who navigated challenging times in our past, particularly those who did it in the public eye. Judge Motley was the second woman lawyer at LDF. For 15 years, she was the only woman lawyer at LDF. She was the first woman litigator to have a child while still actively litigating. She was the first black woman, as you know, to appear in many courtrooms in the South, so much so that she was an object of curiosity. She was the first black woman borough president here in New York. She was the first black woman federal judge. And some of her heiresses are here, like Natasha Murrell and other judges who walk in her footsteps. But the truth is that the word first doesn't quite tell the story. Every first knows this, and I'm sure we have a number of firsts in this crowd. I already said Elaine Jones was the first woman director counsel of LDF. She was also the first black woman graduate of the University of Virginia Law School. But first is what the outside world focuses on. It doesn't even hint at the day-to-day challenges involved in being a trailblazer. And perhaps because of these times that we're in, when open racism of the sort that Judge Motley encountered in those Southern courtrooms has returned to public life, when the qualifications of trailblazing black women are openly and crudely questioned and maligned, and when the universities Judge Motley fought to desegregate have had their hands tied by the Supreme Court in building the kind of learning environment that was denied to Motley's clients, Arthur and Lucy and Charlene Hunter Gault and James Meredith and many others. And perhaps that's why I've been thinking so much, not about what Judge Motley accomplished, but about how she accomplished it. The world in which she became a top litigator at LDF, in which she transformed universities in the South and upended rules of white supremacy, was not one made for women, and certainly not for black women. What was it like to consistently appear before judges who disrespected you, who turned their backs to you, who issued rulings absurd on their face and openly took glee in it, to have to endure opposing counsel referring to you as she and her, simply to avoid calling you Mrs. Motley. To drive for hours in a car with Vernon Jordan every day from Athens to Atlanta for 2 weeks, and to not know where along the road you could stop to go to the restroom. To have to call your son Joel at the end of the day of trial from the clerk's office to ask him about his day, to talk about what he would have for dinner.
And as you heard, in October 2011, President Obama appointed me to the federal bench after I was confirmed by a vote of approval by all 100 United States senators, none of whom had ever heard of me either. None of this would have been possible without the blessing of Judge Motley. She reached out and blessed my family and my career, and ultimately my life, because of her gracious and generous kindness. Her wisdom and support touched every single American. Her judgment made possible the appointment of every single African American judge in our country. Her modesty and discretion, together with the leadership of Justice Marshall and the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, ensured the freedoms all Americans enjoy to this day. Come to think of it, she really did introduce me to the marshals who secure our safety, not only to the ones with guns and badges, for whom I'm very grateful, but to the ones armed with truth, grace, and the law. And for that, I am humbled and honored to say thank you for allowing me to join you in honoring and celebrating the life of the woman who truly was and will always remain our civil rights queen. Her stamp will not only bear her image and the words USA Forever First, her memory will forever be first in our minds, our hearts, and our judicial history. God bless her,
as she accepted the nomination as the first black woman to sit on the United States Supreme Court, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson spoke about how doing so meant standing on the shoulders of Constance Baker Motley. The law school is lucky to have our own portrait of Constance Baker Motley hanging in one of our main student study areas. It's a big space. It's a big space with lots of wall space. Students gather there. It's their main place. They come and they read and they interact with each other. Very visible part of the law school. There are only 2 portraits on the wall in that space. There's room for more, but we have only 2. The other portrait is Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I'd like to say that Ruth Bader Ginsburg is in very good company. When our students see her portrait on our walls, they're reminded that although they are studying the law of their time, good, bad, and sometimes very ugly, just as Motley did in her time, they too can shape the law, not as it is when they learn it, but how it ought to be. The issuance of this stamp of the United States Postal Service, with its exceptional portrait by Charlie Palmer, is an everyday reminder of that responsibility, that we will change the world, that we will shape the world as it ought to be. Would that we all have the courage, the power, and the heroism of Constance Baker Motley. Thank you.
That's all the time we have for this show. I'm Kristal Hart reporting on the Constance Baker Motley stamp, which came out today in New York City at the Constance Baker Motley Recreation Center, located at 348 East 54th Street. Hope you've enjoyed the show. Thanks for watching, and mail a letter today. Thank you.